Very well. Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, April 24. It's 8 a.m. in Chicago, 9 a.m. in Puerto Rico. And what time is it right now in the Philippines, Erica?
9 p.m. 9 p.m. in the
9
Philippines.
So again, they're talking to us from the future. We're excited again for this session, and hopefully world domination hasn't occurred yet. So once again,
Not
thank you,
yet.
everyone. Let's get started with another day of Filipino language and culture. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for that. And like he said, good morning to everyone in Chicago and Puerto Rico, and good evening from the Philippines. Today, we're going to talk about something that's near and dear, I think, to almost everyone's hearts, food. Okay, we will introduce you to Filipino food, what it's about, where it came from, and the basic tastes that you'll probably find here in the Philippines, the basic dishes, and where to find Filipino food in your area. Okay, so let's start. Okay, hang on. Okay. So this is us. I'm Erica Aquino. With me today is Victor Nierva and Benjamin Canapi. They will be managing the chat. So if you have any questions, please just feel free to talk and put it in the chat box. They will bring it up. They will answer your questions over there in the chat box, and I will try to answer questions as I go along as well. All right? Okay. So before we go to the good stuff, let's review the lessons past. All right. So last time we talked about adjectives or pang-uri. It's basically the same as English, especially with regard to placement and permutation. So these are used to describe nouns or pronouns. So we reviewed a few adjectives. So pang-uri, maganda is beautiful, matangkad, tall, matahimik is quiet, maingay is noisy, etc., etc. You can find these again in your drive. So feel free to go back with it. But today we will be tackling some new adjectives, mga bagong pang-uri. Bago is new, pang-uri again is adjectives. Since we're talking about food, we'll be saying a lot like masarap. Masarap means delicious. Matamis means sweet. Maalat means salty. Okay. Maasim is sour. Mapait is bitter. And malinamnam is savory. Okay. Who wants to try describing the word delicious, or telling you what the word delicious is in Filipino? Anyone care to try? Masarap. Quite simple. No one? Okay. Masarap. Thanks, Jasmine. Yeah. Masarap. Yes, that's delicious. Masarap. That's correct, Rachel. All right. Can anyone try the word savory? Malinamnam.
Malimanda.
Malinamnam.
Malimanda.
Mali nam nam. Read it as pronounced.
Maliman.
Nam nam. Very good. Okay. Good try. All right. So let's go to the good stuff, aka the food. All right. So what is Filipino cuisine? Okay, what is Filipino cuisine? You can see a lot of dishes that I like here personally in the background. So let's talk about them. So has anyone here tried Chinese cuisine? Chinese, Japanese, Thai food? Anyone here?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so well, the Filipino food isn't really popular, as popular as some other Asian cuisines, but there has been some reckoning, some growth with Filipino cuisine, especially in the United States, etc., etc. And what you can see here is something popular called a boodle fight, where basically just that amount of food is placed on a lot of banana leaves on a table, and everyone gathers around, at least pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, and we all eat what's on there. And this boodle fight has been practiced as, or has been passed along in other countries, such as the US. I have a personal friend there that does, what do you call this? That also does these boodle fights in France, where she practices as a chef, a private chef. So that's it's been quite popular right now. Okay. So, Filipino food is actually very personal. It's not a regional. There's no standard per se, as opposed to, let's say, other neighboring countries. So, personally, if you ask me, the best Filipino food that I've ever tasted is the food that my lola, my grandmother, cooks. Okay, so the best adobo, which is the dish that you see on the lower left corner, the best adobo that I've ever tried is the one that my mom cooked. Um, Tita, my mom, my lola, my tita. My tita in the Philippines means auntie or aunt. So yes, my titas also have done really good cooking. So yeah, it's really quite personal on our end. Okay. So the basic Filipino flavors, if you think about Asia, you usually think sometimes spicy or herby. But in the Philippines, that's not really the case. So we it tends to revolve around the sweet, the savory, or the sour. Okay, so on the lower left corner, you see tocino. It's not like it's not Filipino. Sorry, it's not Spanish bacon, but rather it's pork belly sweetened. And then when I say sweet, it's just really really sweet. Think of it as think if you're familiar with the teriyaki taste, it's sort of like that but sweeter. Okay. Then you have in the middle binagoongan, which is pork belly again, pork belly in shrimp paste. Okay, this is very savory. It's a really strong hit of umami flavor. Sometimes it has some spice. Okay, and then on the right corner is papaitan, which also is a very sour taste. I personally, my favorite here is the binagoongan, which can get very, very wonderfully savory. Okay, okay. So a sample of sour and savory together is manggat bagoong, or raw mango, green mangoes, and fermented shrimp paste. So the taste here is it's a very sour taste combined with a very umami flavor and salty. So you put it together, and it's just a real flavor bomb. Has anyone tried this so far? Green mangoes. It's not sweet at all, but it's very sour and quite refreshing. I encourage you to try it, but it should be prepared well, Karen. All right. Next slide. We also have dinuguan, which is pork blood stew. Again, it's a very savory dish. Everyone has a lot of cultures have some sort of pork blood in them. I think we got this from Spain, where they have their pork blood sausage. We have it in stew form. Okay, and I think that's also quite popular in other cultures as well. I know they have some sort of dish in Brazil, some sort of dish in, yes, moronga. Okay, so yeah, it's
Miss Aquino,
yes,
in
yes,
Puerto
Mr. Rosado.
in Puerto Rico, we have something very similar, and we call it morcilla.
Morcilla, yes.
Yes, morcilla.
Which is it blood sausage or it's stew?
Yeah, it's blood sausage.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I first encountered morcilla in Spain, actually. So it's quite interesting. Okay. Then we have something similar to South American dishes, champorado. Okay, so this is chocolate. It's a chocolate rice porridge. And yes, what you see on top is dried fish. And it's a very strange combination of flavors and ingredients, but somehow they all work together. Imagine the richness and sweetness of the chocolate, and then you add the saltiness of the dried fish, the saltiness and the crunchiness of the dried fish. So it's a mix of textures and a mix of flavors. It's yeah, as Mr. Kanapi and I were discussing last night, um, it's strange, but the person who said, okay, let's take some rice, which is a staple here in the Philippines, add some chocolate, and top it off with dried fish. That must have been quite a discovery. Okay. All right. So a lot of Filipino dishes are named after the cooking techniques. I'm going to name some of them. This dish here is called tinola. All right, it's a dish made out of chicken, as you can see, and usually it's very gingery. It's very herby and quite fragrant as well. It's a nice comfort food. I particularly enjoy this on a rainy day. Okay, all right. Okay, one of the most popular dishes here in the Philippines is adobo. Okay, it's nothing like what you're familiar with in South America or its Spanish namesake, but rather it's a technique to cook meat or vegetables with vinegar, soy sauce, and garlic. Okay, what you usually fry up the garlic first, cook the adobo, and braise it in the soy sauce and garlic. Sometimes, but the main ingredient here is actually the vinegar. Okay. Some people don't add soy sauce, some people do. But it's a delicious, fragrant dish. And I've had Filipino relatives in the US uh, give me stories where when they cook adobo or whenever they cook adobo, their neighbors come knocking and ask what they're cooking, and they ask for some serving. So it's really quite delicious. And the next time you're at a Filipino restaurant, please request for this. Okay. Um, we also have sinigang. This one is also a favorite. So it's cooked in tamarind or guava or santol. What's santol in English? Okay. Does anyone know what santol in English is? Or calamansi or a Philippine lime or any fruit with a sour taste. Okay. So usually we have we have pork. You can do seafood, shrimp. We also have salmon. We can use salmon in this, but it's quite delicious. Oh, and this is the easiest to understand. Okay, this is kilawin, which is very similar to ceviche. Cotton fruit. Cotton fruit. Thank you.
Cotton fruit.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Santol is cotton fruit in English. Okay, so kilawin is to cook meat or usually seafood in vinegar or acidic fruit juice. And again, this is similar to ceviche. Quite nice. Okay. Yes, definitely yum. All right. So other dishes named after cooking techniques, there's tinola, which is a soup cooked in green papaya and chili leaves. Ginataan, it's anything cooked with coconut milk. It can be desserts, it could be savories, etc., but really quite good. Then we have inihaw, which is to be cooked over a fire or barbecued. And then we have nilaga, which is a soup made by boiling meat and vegetables together. Right. Okay, any questions so far? Let's take a break here and let me ask a few questions, or you can ask me a few questions. Okay. Any questions so far with regard to what we've discussed? That's just the introduction, but yes, Mr. Rosado.
Has anybody in the chat seen any similarities between the Filipino food that Miss Erica was talking about and some of the food that may be cooked in your homes?
Bianca,
Someone says
Blanca,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, Blanca.
Yeah. What kind of food was similar?
Definitely the champurrado is, but without
Yes.
the dry fish.
Yeah.
That's interesting though. I kind of want to try that.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Make sure you do the very crispy dried fish. It has to be that. Natalia, okay. What's something similar? Miss Cardenas.
My family is huge on cooking. Like I have like two aunts that are chef, and like my grandma, she used to like sell food and like in the streets and everything.
Okay.
So like cuisine is very present in my family. So for instance, the adobo,
Mhm.
my family does like a lot of marinades that are heavy with like
Yeah.
vinegar and like
Mhm.
garlic and a lot of like bay leaves and like a lot of like herbs and spices, and they let
Awesome.
that marinate like for like 3 days, and then like they cook it and they braise it and everything.
Ooh.
So I think a lot of has to do with like maybe like the Spain again
Yeah.
influence, right? But
Yes.
definitely, I would say that. Mhm,
Awesome. Awesome.
mhm.
Miss Rosalind, talk to us. What would you say is similar?
I was gonna say the same as Blanca, because
Okay. Okay. All right. Champorado then. All right. Okay. So that being said, that's a brief intro. I will pass it on now to Mr. Nerva, who will talk about how our cuisine is really very regional. All right. Take it away,
Yeah, I
Vic.
think yes, I think Erica passed this on to me because I'm from the regions actually. Yes, saying that starting from where Erica ended, our cuisine is very regional. If you can I have the next slide, please?
Sure.
Um, yeah, if you see the Philippine map, if you're from the north, you'll have a very different culinary traditions than say you're from the south. If you're from the south or if you're from the central Philippines, given our geographic setup, this is not surprising because our influences are really different. The influences of the northern Philippines and the traditions that they were able to preserve there um, really move them also to preserve some of their ancient dishes. And unlike if you're in Manila, you have the fusion of everything. If you're from Bicol, for example, I'm from the central Philippines. It's called the Bicol region. Yeah, it's there where the cursor is. Um, we love a lot of we love lots of coconut milk. We love lots of spices, chilies. But if you if you go to other parts of the Philippines, they don't have that tradition. But they do have coconuts, but they don't use it much for cooking. But if you're from the further south, from the Visayas, you also have a different traditions of cooking. So we have the but what's what binds us all is that all the cooking traditions of the entire Philippines are Austronesian, again, just like our language and many other traditions in the Philippines, many other parts of our cultures. uh the cooking techniques, the cooking tradition are is very much Austronesian. Okay, so this is not surprising because even if you go to Indonesia and Malaysia and other parts of Southeast Asia, they do have the same diversity as far as taste is concerned. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what are the factors? One, native ingredients per location. Um, in Bicol region, we have lots of coconut, and we plant lots of. We are visited by typhoons many times in a year. That's where I come from. In the north, they don't get hit by typhoons all the time, so they're the ones producing rice for the entire country. Rice is the staple food of the Philippines. In Mindanao, for example, cultural influences factors much in their food. Mindanao is dominantly Muslim, so halal is practiced there, and their way of cooking is also different. Okay.
Next slide.
Next, yeah, next slide. So the Philippines is practically just like the United States. For example, you have your southern, and then you have your the city food from, if you're from New York, and if you're from inland United States, you also you also have different uh, ways of food preparation. So our cuisine is a real mix of East and West. But I want to go back a little, just to set this things uh, grounded. Now, the Filipino cuisine is uh, reliant on the availability, and as we said earlier, and the availability and diversity of resources that can be used as ingredients. So traditions of tastes vary from one region to another, but again, as I shared with you earlier, we share the same Austronesian origin. So food preparations from may range from one region to another, but uh, we unlike our Asian neighbors, we have a simpler methods of preparation, and we were able to preserve these techniques even before the arrival of the Spaniards in 1500s. So we use salt to preserve meats. We use fruits and vegetables. We boil our food to make our soups. We steam our rice and we roast our meats. We have three native techniques: the sugba, grill to roast, and then the tula to make soup or broth, and then the kilaw, we cook our meats and other ingredients in souring agents, just like vinegars and other citrus products. These techniques lingered until now, and these techniques are the ones greatly influenced by foreign influences. So in the Philippines, meals are served 3 times a day. We do have a lot of small meals in between. Rice is staple. Okay, our cuisine now is a real mix of East and West because we have been influenced by by Spain, our neighboring Asian countries. We were under the influence of the United States in early 20th century. We were also under Japan, and we Dutch influence, British influence, everything. And now we are experiencing diaspora. Filipinos are all over the world to look for jobs, and these phenomena allow us to have a taste of everything, from all over the world. So our cuisine is a real mix of East and West, and we continuously change the way we eat. We continuously change the way we cook. Next slide, please. So before everyone came, the Philippines has a rich variety of vegetables and fruits. But we are not fond of using spices and herbs, but we are fond of using souring agents. We have lots of souring agents in the Philippines. We have different types of vinegars, different types of citrus fruits, different types of sour fruits and souring agents. That's why more than spices like say basil, mint, herbs and other herbs, more than onions, because onions are not native to the Philippines. We do have a lot of sour tasting dishes. Okay, so main proteins: fish, pork, chicken, beef, goat, and then I mentioned earlier the techniques that we've used. Next. So now let me ask you, from the dishes that we shared, what dishes do you have at home that are quite similar to what we have here? No, we stew, we saute meat in spices. We make broths and flavor them with souring agents. No? Okay. So what influences do we have? First is Indian influence. Aside from the language, we are also influenced by Indians quite earlier than the Spaniards. Just like our rice cakes, the South Indian putu are we call it puto in the Philippines. And this other one, bibingka, there's also bibingka in India. So there's bibingka in southern India, in Goa, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. This is quite this is a special section of Philippine cuisine, the Islamic food, because the Muslims were already there before Spain came. So in southern Philippines, especially in Mindanao Island, dominantly it's Muslim, as I think I've already shared a while ago. So they also have their own different ways of cooking. Okay, next. I think this is the biggest influence that we have in the Philippine cuisine. In the Philippines, I don't know how many percentage of our restaurants are serving
Chinese.
practically Chinese influenced food, like the noodles, the dumplings, the rolls that we have are practically Chinese. And I think you have a lot also of Chinese food in the US. My aunt, for example, if she feels lazy and doesn't want to cook, she would order me and and what do you call this? The rice in the box thing that they serve. Okay, and next. So Indian, we have the Chinese. I think the biggest legacy of the Chinese in the Philippines is the pancit. The pancit is the Filipino pasta or the Filipino noodles. The name pancit comes from the Hokkien term pian isit,
Easy.
no? Literally convenient food. The pancit is actually also the ancestor of the ramen, of the Japanese ramen. So pancit is all over not just all over the Philippines, but all over the world, and we inherited it from the Chinese. Even the pasta, when Marco Polo came to Asia, he brought back the pasta to Italy. Okay. Yes, we also have Spanish influence, but the Spanish what the Spanish did to our cuisine, what Spain did to our cuisine is to overturn it. They used our ingredients and cooked it according to their techniques. Say, for example, tinola. Tinola, you have this is chicken soup cooked with papaya, raw papaya, and the chili leaves. This one is afritada, I think, right? This is afritada, a chicken sautéed in
Tomatoes.
tomato sauce, tomato paste, or tomatoes, or with vegetables and the extenders. Okay, so you might probably see some similar dishes that you cook at home, especially that a lot of us here are heavily influenced by Spain. Yes, the adobo. Erica already spoke extensively about adobo earlier. I'm going to bistec. Bistec is actually beef steak, but we call it bistec. But the steak that you know there, which I so much want to have, we call it bistec here. So bistec is a stew here, right? It's a stew cooked with soy sauce. Practically soy sauce, sugar, and spices. We have embutido, ground pork with different ingredients like the chilies, raisins. You have egg there. Sometimes you have chorizo. So that's and we steam it, and then sometimes we would even fry it again. To recook it, we fry it or even bake it, even if it's already cooked. So see, I think you have similar dishes at home, right? Anyone? Can you identify uh, similar dishes that you cook at home? Anyone? Wala pa? Sige, so let's try some
Adobo.
more. Adobo is
Aaron
all.
cooks. Okay. All right.
Bistek, Aaron, you cook bistek? Wow.
Bistek. Sure.
Okay, next.
Okay.
Okay, so if you will see this longanisa, this is our sausage, no, Philippine style meat sausage, often made with pork because pork is the more uh, convenient here and cheaper than beef. Apparently based on the Spanish longaniza, but has more in common with chorizo. So in the Philippines we have chorizo. We call something like chorizo de Bilbao, but you can find it anywhere in Bilbao. Okay, so we have this. We have a lot of food in the Philippines which we call, which we call with the Spanish names, but are not anywhere in Spain. We called it our own and embraced it as our own and named it the way we wanted it to be, to 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 make it unique also. Okay. This is lechon. This is our national dish. Roast pig cooked for hours. Yeah, cooked for hours. So you have lechon. I think you have lechon also in your place, respective places.
Hey,
In
Vic,
Spain, they usually, yes.
now I want some lechon. Thank you.
Yeah. So the difference is in Spain, they usually roast a piglet. We call it lechon de leche. In the Philippines, we wanted it bigger, so we roast the whole pig. So we also have lechon vaca, the
Roasted cow.
roasted cow. No? Again, if you will remember, I've shared about sugba. Lechon is actually a type of a sugba because sugba is grilling or roasting. So it's an ancient, it's an earlier cooking tradition in the Philippines. Okay.
I'd also like to point out that if you are vegetarian or vegan, it's really difficult to find cuisine or food here in the Philippines for that. Probably in Manila, yes. In the capital city, yes. But if you go out to the provinces, to the regions, it might be quite difficult. But because we're a very meat heavy culture, so yeah. So for the vegetarians or vegans around here, I apologize for this. But yes, this is this is our culture as we are. All right. Okay.
Okay. Next slide. Oh, American influence came at the onset of the 1900s because we were given to the United States by Spain. So the the biggest influence of America to Philippine cuisine are the food joints that we have. So the fast food especially. While the Philippines is such a ready market for American and Americanized food, but this is the but here. Pizzas and tacos that you love there, even if they're from Italy and the South, the Mexico. We are currently in the process of Filipinizing everything. So we Philippinize our pizza. We Philippinize our in Bicol, for example. we Philippinize our, we have laing pizza, no? We have pizza with our native dish called laing. It's um taro leaves cooked in coconut milk.
Coconut.
So we have a pizza for that, no? Yeah. So if you're a vegetarian, that's the best pizza for you, because the toppings is practically, but we add in Parmesan cheese, so that makes it a little different. Uh, our Jollibee, for example, and is there Jollibee in Chicago?
Yes,
Yes.
there is.
Oh,
Two of
really?
them.
So two. So Jollibee is invading the world now. Um, it's in the Philippines. Jollibee is more popular than McDonald's. Even in
And
surveys, yeah.
yeah, and just to add to that, Vic, so a baby's first words, and here in the Philippines are of course Mama, Dada, and Jollibee.
Yes, yes, exactly. Okay, so Jollibee is, I think is it the first successful uh,
Yeah,
fast food in Philippines, right? Yeah,
yeah.
but it practically copied McDonald's, the technique that McDonald's did, but it's more popular than McDonald's now. Okay, next.
Hey,
Okay.
Mr. Nierva,
Yes.
can I share? I just want to share a quick story to kind of put things maybe in context for our participants from the States, and kind of connect the food and whatnot from Asia. So
Okay.
I would travel to China a lot for work over the past couple of years. And after my first time, and after one of my trips, I said, you know what? I've been hearing a lot of wonderful things about the Philippines. I'm already on this side of the world. Let me stop by the Philippines, and just check it out. And when I went to the Philippines, after being in China for about 2.5, 3 weeks, that food is extremely unique compared to what we're eating in the United States. Even what we call Chinese food in the United States is nothing close to what they actually eat in China. So, I was used to eating, anyways, very traditional Chinese food. So after I decided to make that decision and stop off in the Philippines on my way back to Chicago, when I went to the Philippines, it was somewhat of a familiar feeling, because as I started to eat the cuisine, I started to pick up on all these similarities within my Latino culture and the Filipino culture in food. Even the way the Filipinos were seasoning their rice, it was different than, they would season their rice in China.
Yes.
The lechon, right? So I started looking at, they had like lechon, I think one of them was called Rico's lechon. So that's like a, right? That's like a, but that's like a, that would be like a franchise lechon place in the Philippines. And we don't have a franchise lechon place in the States, right? So, seeing that, dedication to lechon, and knowing how many friends and family and how much influence for us lechon is at holidays, at birthday parties. So being able to go from China, stopping in Philippines, and then seeing, this Latino and Spanish culture in the Philippines was such a breath of fresh air, and really a really cool bridge between Asia and Latin America. So, every time I would go to Asia or China after that, I would always make it a point to stop in the Philippines on my way back, almost as kind of like to ease myself back into my culture. So I just wanted to share that, how many similarities there are between Filipino culture and Mexican, Puerto Rican, South American, all types of culture. We're very much, the food is definitely the cream of the crop there. So I just wanted to kind of put that in context.
This is practical, Adrian. This is what practically what we've been discussing here in the Philippines just recently, because we are celebrating the 500th year of the arrival of Spain. So the country, especially uh, the academics, are pretty much divided between those who really appreciate it and those who hate it. So those who hate it, um, would really turn their attention to what we've lost. Those who those who appreciate it would turn their attention also to what we've gained. So I think this is what one thing I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle because I think post-colonially we cannot deny the Spanish influence in the Philippines, and I think this one, what you've just said, is an enlightening statement for all this, because we both of us come from you know come from countries that were once colonies of Spain, right? So in the Philippines, we embraced it. That's why I think if you compare the Filipino tastes, if you compare the Filipino dishes to the neighboring Asians, um, theirs are more native, ours are more hybrid, are more heavily influenced, but we can still also go back. But we can still have the most native of our cuisines. So I think here, our next slide, some Filipino dishes you need to know about. So let's get to know what are these dishes. Kare kare. This is from Pampanga, in just a couple of hours from Metro Manila. This is uh, uh, the main ingredient here, the main flavor here is peanuts. This is kare kare is flavored with peanuts. No, so you have vegetables there. We usually use tripe or oxtail or ox tripe or beef, and we flavor it. The ground peanuts serve just like a gravy of kare kare. Okay, and next. So, what are the dishes in your place that are flavored with peanuts? Sisig is also from Pampanga. Uh, Sisig, the original sisig are the original sisig is the main ingredients are the mask of the pig, the ears of the pig, no, the face of the pig practically, and you chop them and spice them uh, with various spices so that they become so flavorful. So that's the sisig. I think this is one of the most favorite among our international our dishes in international arena. Okay, next. Oh, this halo halo. Halo halo is very much colonial because ice came to the Philippines when ice makers came, right? So we didn't have halo halo before. We didn't have facility to make ice, no. So because we're a tropical country, so halo halo, from halo means mix, not to mix. So it's the ingredients of this dessert. We have gelatin, we have sago, we have coconut meat there, the young coconut meat called buko. We have ice cream, we have leche flan, we have everything. Um, you can actually be more creative and add some more, no, to what's the traditional halo halo is. So halo halo is a common dessert in the Philippines. Some
It's delicious.
chefs from, yeah, it's really delicious. Chefs from all over the world are very much appreciative of halo halo. They love halo halo. The tourists love halo halo. Okay.
Mm.
Oh, these are our street food. You have balut. Uh, there's a joke going around that balut is aborted chicken, no? Because we don't we don't let that this the balut on the streets are not actually chicken, they're ducks, no. So the balut, we, instead of allowing them to hatch, we cook them, we boil them for several hours, and we season balut with salt. But balut is really high in cholesterol, so if you want some, please mind your cholesterol level. Okay, barbecue, it's barbecue, grilled meat. You have kwek kwek. Kwek kwek is quail eggs. This is also very high in cholesterol, but I love kwek kwek. The kwek kwek is quail eggs. You we have
Deep fry.
flour batter, yeah,
Yeah.
and deep fry it, and that's it. You dip it in vinegar or any pickled vegetables. It's good for snacks. We have isaw manok. Isaw manok is chicken intestines. We marinate them and grill them. And then we have fish balls, which we inherited from the Chinese. And in relation to balut, we also have 1 day old chick. We fry them. We don't we fry them and again dip them in vinegar or eat them along with pickled vegetables, pickled say cucumber or pickled turnips. So that's how it's eaten. I haven't tried it honestly. So the 1 day old chick. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Before we, yeah,
Erica.
thanks, Vic. Yeah, thanks, Vic. But before we practice, is there anything I'd like to ask you guys? Is there anything that you'd like to try and would not like to try? Let's start with stuff that you would probably like to try among the food that we showed you. Fishball. Yes, it's a great street food actually. And as students, as broke college students or high school students, we would go up to the street carts selling fishball, dip it in sweet and sour sauce, and eat it. Anything else that you'd like to try? Um, Vic, what's your personal favorite Filipino food?
Too many, I think.
Too
But
many?
I love how we cook it in Bicol to in my region to
Right, right,
to make it local. We add coconut milk to everything. So I love coconut milk. Anything with coconut milk.
right.
When Mr. Rosado was here, we treated them to everything with coconut milk.
Yes.
Coconut.
Blanca, yes. Halo
It was
halo is amazing.
coconut with a side of coconut, topped with some coconut in a bed of coconut. It was delicious.
Yep. Add some chicken. Blanca, yes. Halo halo is amazing. Mr. Rosado, anything that you liked when you were here?
I mean, I think I already mentioned that I love the lechon. However,
Yes.
aside from the lechon, well, one of my favorite dishes did come from Mr. Nierva's hometown or home region of Bicol, which was Bicol Express. That was delicious. And I do want to say this. I did enjoy adobo. So when you think of like adobo, think of like pollo guisado. In our where I come from, my family in Puerto Rico, we have something similar to adobo. It's called pollo guisado, and it's made very similar, except that we add rice with the chicken in the stew. So adobo is very similar to our pollo guisado. So yeah, I would have to go with adobo, Bicol Express, and everybody's favorite, lechon.
All right. Now, another question. Is there anything you wouldn't try? And it's okay because, to be honest, I don't like balut. But my brother can probably eat 4 in one sitting. Okay. Is
That's
there anything that you?
dangerous.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Yep,
quite
Blanca, I wouldn't try
dangerous.
balut either. And if you're curious as to what the day old chick, yeah, me neither. If you're curious as to what balut tastes like, it tastes like hard-boiled egg, but with feathers and a beak.
Oh, no.
No, it's so tasty.
Oh,
The
wow.
the the juice of the balut is so tasty. That's what I am most excited about whenever I eat balut. Before you consume the embryo and the egg there, the egg yolk, you have to sip the balut, the juice, the essence of it.
Okay,
So yeah,
all
but
right.
I don't
Now,
have anything that I can say I hate. I think except for if it's snake, so I won't eat it.
right. All right. So with that, let's practice now. Okay. Let's practice ordering. Let's practice. If let's pretend I'm in a restaurant. Okay. And I am the server. And I will ask you, ano ang gusto mong kainin? Which means, what do you want to eat? Anong gusto mong kainin? It's quite okay. And if somebody says that, you say, I want to eat adobo, or gusto kong kumain ng adobo, or gusto ko ng sinigang, just to be more simple about it. So again, if the server asks you, ano ang gusto mong kainin? You can answer with, gusto kong kumain ng so and so, or gusto ko ng blah. Gusto again is I want, very similar to gustar, gusto in Spanish. So who would like to try? Just asking, what do you want to eat? It's ano ang gusto mong kainin? Who would like to try that?
I can try it. Can you say it one more time?
Ano ang gusto mong kainin?
Ano ang gusto ong kainin?
Very good. Ano ang gusto mong kainin?
Ano ang gusto mong kainin? Kainin.
Kainin. Yes,
Kainin.
very good, actually. Really, really good. Okay. And then you reply with, I want to eat adobo, or gusto kong kumain ng adobo.
Gusto kong kumain adobo.
Ng adobo. So NG, no, don't apologize. NG in the Philippines is pronounced nang. Okay, nang. So gusto kong kumain ng adobo.
Gusto kong I can't. Okay, one more time.
Okay. Gusto kong kumain ng
Gusto kong
adobo.
kumain ng adobo.
Very good, very good. And then, but to make it even easier, we can say gusto ko ng sinigang. I want sinigang.
Gusto ko ng sinigang.
Very good. All right, great. Does anyone want? Mr. Kanapi here wants. Gusto niya ng Chicago deep dish pizza. Okay, but who else wants to try? Who else wants to try? Ano ang gusto mong kainin? No one else?
Can you repeat it?
Okay, it's ano ang gusto mong kainin?
Ano nang gusto mong kainin?
Very good. Right. Good.
Okay.
And then you reply with, gusto kong kumain ng adobo.
Gusto kong kumain ng adobo.
Yes, that's okay. Kumain, ha? Kumain. And then gusto ko ng sinigang. It just means I want sinigang.
Mhm. Gusto ko ng sinigang.
Very good. Okay, and you can say gusto ko just means I want. Okay, it's very similar to Spanish. Okay, and then here when we call the server, we say waiter or ate or kuya. Ate or kuya means big brother or big sister. Maybe you can type it up in the chat box, Vic or B. Ate, kuya, ma'am, sir. Waiter, isang adobo at isang sinigang. So remember in the last lessons, we showed you how to count. So isa, dalawa, tatlo. So here it's one adobo and one sinigang. So isang adobo at isang sinigang. So you can say, Miss Erica, isang hamburger at isang French fries, and they will understand you. Okay. Again, ate is older sister, kuya is older brother. And yes, they are used as terms of endearment, and you can say that in a restaurant when you want to call the server. So it's ate, isang adobo and isang sinigang. Or ate or kuya, isang hamburger at isang pizza. Okay, isa means one. So who would like to try? Vic, maybe you want to call me and want to order a Chicago deep dish pizza in Filipino.
Erica, isang Chicago dish pizza, please.
Okay. Okay, sige. All right. So that's how you order here in Filipino. Anyone would like to try? Kuya, ate, you can say at Kuya Vic, isang hamburger, please.
Kuya Vic,
Yes.
isang hamburger, please.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay
and you can
po.
order. So it's really quite simple ordering here. Who else would like to order something of their favorite food? Okay. Just to let you know also, so here in the Philippines, if you go to a restaurant, what's common is, of course, everything is served with rice. Okay, and rice here in the Philippines means is kanin, Kanin. To differentiate it from kain, which is to eat, kanin is rice. So somebody will ask, ilang kanin ang gusto nyo? It means how many cups of rice do you want? Okay, and and you can say gusto namin ng tatlong kanin, or we want 3 cups of rice. Okay, so that's yeah, we're a very rice heavy culture, as you can see, and I don't know how anyone can sit through 3 cups of rice. Okay, all right, okay. And then there are translations as well. Pulutan is appetizers, panghimagas is dessert, and halo-halo, of course, it's like this. So when I ask you, gusto nyo na ba ng pulutan? Okay, and gusto nyo ng panghimagas, do you want a dessert? All right, so it is, okay, so here, that's the main thing is, masarap ang pagkain, or napakasarap ng pagkain. This food is delicious. And to say you're full, you say, I'm busog ako, or busog na busog. Yeah, busog na busog means I'm very full. Busog ako means I am full. Okay, so when you want to repeat something, you want emphasis, you repeat it. Busog na busog. Okay? So who wants to say that they're full?
So we'll just have to say like the first.
Yeah, busog ako.
Yeah.
Busog na ko?
Yes, I am full.
Yes.
Very good. Perfect. All right. So it is now. So if you want to try some Filipino food, by the way, here is a list of restaurants in the Philippines, and there are 2 Jollibee branches over there as well. And if you want to try, if you want to order anything from Jollibee, order up the Chicken Joy, the fried chicken, and the Filipino spaghetti. Okay, and maybe some halo-halo if there is available. Okay. All right. Okay, so thank you very much. Mr. Rosado, would you like to say a few words?
No, thank you, everybody. It was a great, it was another great session as we continue to understand the differences between our cultures. I think that we're also really starting to shape up and see the similarities between our cultures. So, with that said, let's continue to be engaged. Let's continue to be, active in the conversation, because the only way that we learn is by practicing, repeating, and asking questions. And that's just not with language, but that's with life. So with that, again, thank you, Mr. Nieva. Thank you, Mr. Benjamin Canapi, and thank you, Ms. Erica Aquino. We look forward to our next session, and all the students in the chat. I believe we have 2 more sessions left, so let's take away as much as we can while we can. These are opportunities that are being afforded to us that we don't get every day. So with that said, thank you, everybody. And Blanca, Natalia, anything?
No, thank you so much.
Awesome. Cheers.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.